Welcome to Leave My Business Well podcast. Are you a business owner who plans to leave your business in the next 10 years? Or perhaps you're a business owner looking to protect your business in case of emergencies. Maybe you're a key employee looking to poise yourself as a future owner. Join Derek Moffitt and the Leave My Business Well team as we tackle the exit strategy challenges facing more than 33 million small businesses in America. Business builder, you've built something great. Let us help you leave it well.
My name is Derek Moffitt. I'm a certified financial planner and certified exit planner. And I'm with my lovely wife of 28 years, Jennifer, and we own a company called Leave My Business Well. Jennifer, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and about us, who we are.
Hey, business builders. We're so glad you're here with us today. You guys are the risk takers and you're job creators. You're the heroes in our community, and we're glad to have you with us today. Derek and I work together he's the certified exit planner. I'm just his right-hand person.
Everything else.
And,
She's the CEO.
So today we're going to give you some information. What are we going to do today, Derek?
Well, we're going to talk about what it means to exit, what an exit plan is, and why you need it, and why you want to think about it if you own a business. But let me tell you a little bit about our business. We started our business, Moffitt Financial Strategies, 10 years ago. That's our other financial planning and asset management firm. And we started it with 3 kids. We had little kids. And I got into one of those companies where you had to go door knocking. And so I door knocked for like 8 hours a day in the Texas heat in a suit and tie.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah, about 20 years ago. But then our business started about 10 years ago after that. And so now we have 5 kids. And our oldest is about to graduate from law school. Our second oldest is graduating soon. She's going to England to study. So we've lived the life of owning a business and having a family and talk about our own exit strategy at some point. So that's a little bit about us and who we are.
But we have 5 kids, so we may never exit our business.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we will become passive owners, continue to need income to pay for all of our grandkids one day. That's the plan, right? So let's talk about kind of what we're going to talk about today. First of all, let's define what we mean by business builder. You know, a business builder is an owner of a business, maybe a co-owner of a business. That business provides for themselves and their families. It provides for employees and their families, and it serves a group of customers and clients, and it serves a community. And for most of us as business builders, our business will represent somewhere between 60 to maybe even 90% of our net worth. And then we have this problem. How do we monetize that business in a way that we can retire or transfer it to the next generation or sell it to a third party? How do we exit? Because as we talked about earlier, we all exit. Exiting is not a choice. You know, it's either by disaster. I remember hearing, a friend of ours who they had a business together and they got a divorce. And so all of a sudden, she's exiting the business because he's going to keep it. And what did that look like for her? It was a tragic situation. It was an exit by disaster. One of the people that we know that did our estate planning for us called me one time. And she said, hey, there's this financial advisor client of mine. He just passed away. He's 40 years old. And would you be interested in buying his business? And I said, well, yes. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that story later in the podcast. But it didn't work out for him. He exited by death. Or you could be the business owner that exit by design, where you have a plan, a thoughtful carry-out plan, and you transition that business and you leave it well to who you decide to leave it to.
Now, as you mentioned before, if your business is 60 to 80% of your net worth, making sure that you protect it and that you plan for disaster and death, as well as just leaving, when you retire or later on, all of those are important when you're talking about such a big piece of your net worth.
Yeah, it is. And it's good stewardship to make sure that you do that type of planning for your family, first of all. You want to protect your family who you've created this, like us, 20-year journey of creating a business. You want to make sure that you take care of your family. I want to know that if something happens to me, you're going to be okay, and our kids are going to be okay, and they're going to be able to get college educations and get a jump start to life and be successful. I want to have that confidence. And so we did planning early on to make sure that that would be the case if something happened to me, God forbid.
And spouses everywhere really appreciate that kind of planning. I appreciate the security of knowing that you've made that plan for us.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, we have a book that we call there's hidden in our closet that
The book.
outlines everything, where everything is and who to call and all that stuff. So it's important to have. Yeah. The other thing that question is, so what is exit planning? What does it mean and what's the process? And so that's what really we're going to go into today, why it's important.
Then we'll also talk about what do you do with your business?
Oh, yes, that would be good. What do you do with it? The problem. How do you get out of it? Yep.
That's right. So at the end of the podcast, after we've discussed all of these things, then we'll also share a personal planning tip and some other resources for you. So Derek, why don't you share just what exactly is exit planning?
Well, exit planning is the process of identifying how you, the business builder, wants to transition out of your business. And again, by that we mean design. It's like creating a blueprint. If you want to think about buying a house or deciding to build a house, one of the first things you do is you hire an architect, and you sit down with that architect and you say, this is what our dream house looks like. Well, that's really the process of exit planning. We're the architects in this example here, and we sit down with clients, or you have to sit down with your chosen professional and outline, this is what we want it to look like. This is our idea plan. So it involves really working through 4 what we call universal objectives. These are objectives that every business owner has. And then it also deals with identifying what other goals and objectives are important for business owners.
And just like building a custom home, I don't know if you've ever seen this on home design shows, but they always make changes halfway through.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of having an exit planner who can walk with you through that process is there are changes that happen halfway through. We see that with our clients all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, Derek calls me and he says, well, I'm going to be a little late. I've got to stay up here and change so-and-so's plan. I just got a lot of changes. And so it's important that you understand what you're doing along the way, but you understand that things change. And as you go along, you might need some help changing the plan.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. One of our principles that we operate with is that we build flexibility in our planning because life does change. And we do have to be able to pivot. We do have to be able to make adjustments along the way. And so we've got lots of stories and examples of how that can happen. And we'll share those with you as we go through this journey. We want to build a relationship with you as friends. Our goal is to teach and share as much as we can so that you walk away with some valuable help and insight on how to take care of your most important asset, and that's your business. So let's talk about the 4 universal goals. First of all, we've got to define what does leaving mean to you, the business owner, because that word leaving means something different to everybody.
Okay, then we'll probably also want to discuss when are we going to leave?
That's right. When do you leave? So what does it mean to you? When do you want to leave? When I think about leaving, I think it could mean, selling your business. I think that's what most people think about leaving. I'm going to sell my business to a third party, and they're going to take over, and I'm going to ride off into the sunset with my wife, and we're going to go to Hawaii and live there forever on the beach. That's what you think about, right?
But I think it's also important to think about untimely leaving or unintended leaving. We've had a number of dear friends who the spouse has passed away, and the spouse was the main partner or main driver in the business. And so when the spouse left that business through death, there wasn't a plan.
Right.
And we watched a business that had been multi-generational shrivel away and get sold off in pieces and parts because there was no plan when that person left the business. So I think leaving can mean selling, it can mean retiring, but it could also mean dying or becoming disabled or having to move to take care of a loved one. Or, there are a lot of ways that you leave your business.
Yeah. It can also mean staying financially engaged with your business. Some owners, what they want to do is become passive owners. And so they retain ownership, but not operational involvement. And so it could mean leaving means you exit operationally, but you can continue to reap the financial benefits, of owning the business. What is leaving? What does it mean to you? And then the second thing that you mentioned, when does that happen? Does it happen a year? Most the joke in our industry is when you ask a business owner, Jennifer, when do you want to leave your business? They typically say,
in 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years. And then 2 years later, you ask that same question, when do you want to leave your business?
In 5 years.
In 5 years. It's kind of this rolling 5-year thing. Some people say, I want to leave yesterday, depending on how challenging it is. But that is something, too, is when do you want to leave? What does it look like? And then when do you want to leave? And then we want to talk about what next?
To whom do I want to transfer the business?
Right. I think I said earlier that people often think of selling their business as the only exit path, but that's not true. You can transfer it to children. Maybe you have family.
Not children.
Not children.
Not children.
No, not
your
children.
offspring.
Children. Yeah, your offspring.
Children can't run your business.
Sometimes your adult offspring can't run your business
Right.
either, So, yeah, you could transfer it to family. Maybe you've got family that work in the business and they've got the competency and the character, and you want to give that to them and have them carry on that family business legacy. You can also transfer it to key employees.
We're working through a couple of those plans right now where we've got either employees that really are not ready to own the business now, but they show great potential for it. And so part of the exit plan will be preparing them to be ready to own the business.
Right.
There are others where they're ready to buy the business and own it today. And so we can make a plan for that.
Right. That's what the point of planning is, right? Determining, what you want to do and how do you get there. And so you could give it to key employees. You could sell it, by the way, to your employees in terms of, ESOPs or what they call employee types of trust out there. We're going to talk about all these in details in episodes to come up. So who do you want to give your business to? Could be a third party as well. So lots of options there for business owners. And then the final thing that we deal with is probably one of the most critical things, and that is how much after-tax money do you need from the sale of your business or the transition of your business to live without worry, to be financially independent, to be able to flourish throughout the remainder of your life, to accomplish the goals that you want to do. So again, we focus not on selling price, we focus on after-tax money because that's what you have to work with. And so we want to understand how much do you need to be financially independent.
Are there any other goals and objectives outside of these 4 things that we need to consider with business owners?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is important too. Some business owners, most of us as owners have spent decades building our business. And we've put our stamp on it, our identities, our personalities are in that business, our values are in that business. And so we may want to protect that company culture. We may want to protect that company values. So the idea of selling to a third party, for example, could be really, challenging. I had a business owner who had sold twice to private equity, and he and I were talking about it. He was not a client. This was kind of interviewing him after the fact, and he said, Derek, he said, if you sell to private equity, you've got to be prepared for your 20-year-old employee to call you, or 20-year employee to call you and say she just got laid off, and that was his experience. And so, sometimes owners don't want that. They would take less money in order to protect that company and to protect that company values. That's one of the things. A couple of the others are.
Well, and I know before we move on that's really important to us in our business, that our employees are like family. They're people we spend time with every day. And I think it's probably the same in your business, that your employees have helped you build what you have today. And your clients are important to you. They've paid the bills, and they're people that you serve and you spend time with. And
right.
So it's important to you to maintain that, that it's not just selling the business and getting out of it, but it's making sure that those people, those employees that you've spent time with, and the culture that you've built with them, maybe you've built a lot of flexibility in there that you want people to be able to take off when they need to. Maybe you've built a family comes first culture and you want them to be able to do things with their family when they need to. Or maybe you've built a we do the best work in town culture, and you want to make sure that stays in place. And so that becomes an important part of your plan, is how do we maintain this when we leave?
Yeah, I remember you and I had the honor of being invited to one of our clients' Christmas parties. And I remember sitting there at the table. They did not know who we were. They brought us in to do some exit planning. And so we were sitting there at the table, and the family atmosphere was a great time. They were laughing, and it was a lot of fun. And I just was like, man, this is really an extended family. And this is, and the owners told me that in our meetings and our discovery process. But to see that in place was really amazing. And I think that a lot of the owners that we deal with want to protect and provide for their employees.
that sort of leads us into
Yeah.
that next point, which really is making sure that the employees are well provided for.
Yeah.
That it's not just the culture, but if you've expected to compensate your employees in a certain way or to provide certain benefits, you want to maintain those in the transition, then you have to plan for that.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes we do some planning techniques like, we'll do a stay bonus. Part of the deal might be if the employee stays for a year after the transition, they get an extra bonus, and there's all kind of ways we can do that. But the idea is, how do you take care of your employees? That one of the first people I talked to about exit planning said, Derek, I want to give 10% of my proceeds to my top 2 employees. And I mean, we're talking a multi-million-dollar business. And I was like, oh my goodness, And his heart was, these people have helped build my business for years. And I am where I'm at today because of what they've done and what they've given to me. And I want to reward that. And I think a lot of our clients, a lot of our business builder clients really feel that way. They want to make sure they're taking care of their employees.
Well, most people have not become successful business owners by being greedy or mean.
Right.
They've gotten there by being generous to their employees and by being good people to work for. Mm-hmm. And they've built this strong employee base because they've been good employers, and they want to continue to be good employers even in their transition out of their business.
Yeah, that's a really important goal. Some owners, though, have this vision of being able to take the business to the next level. A lot of times we see this when people want to sell to private equity. Maybe the exit is a phased exit. They sell part of their business out to a third party who brings in some capital, some resources that they may not have, and that helps them go to the next level. There's a story of a guy that did this with he thought his son was going to take over the business. And his son comes to him and says, Dad, I really don't want to take over the business. And so the dad's like, well, shoot, what do I do now? So he had a pretty good sized business, and he ended up selling 20% of it to a private equity firm. And the equity firm came in, injected some capital, they took it to the next level, and then he exited finally in a full sale when the private equity firm helped him negotiate a sale to another larger company in their industry, and he made a ton of money on that second exit. And so sometimes the exit is a phase step, but they want to take that business to the next level, and that's a key thing for them. Yeah.
Then, of course, we've got philanthropy and charitable giving.
Yeah.
That's really important to some people. We just got to have dinner with some clients recently, and it was amazing to sit with them. They're close to their exit, and to sit with them and to hear them talk about they're passionate about Bible translation. So when I asked, so tell me about this charitable giving, what are you excited about? They just came alive and started telling us about countries where there are no Bibles translated in those native languages and how important it was to them that every person could pick up a Bible and read it in their own language. And so their money is going to go to fund that because that's really important to them. And it was so exciting to us to get to be a part of Derek creating a plan for them that allowed them to do what was important to them and what was a passion project for them.
Yeah. With a lot of our clients, the challenge, in addition to exit planning, we do personal planning for some of our business owners as well, and investment management. And in some of our clients, the challenge is not having them spend too much money in retirement. It's not giving it too much money away too fast. Helping to manage that tension between their charitable and generous hearts and their resources so that it takes care of them, but yet they can fulfill this really desire to be generous and to give. Yeah.
Right? Because as we said earlier, most business owners don't get successful by being mean and greedy.
Right.
They're
right.
typically really charitable, generous people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and you just think of all the foundations we know of, the big foundations came from people that really were successful. There's often family goals associated that are important. Maybe they want to take care of their family. Maybe they've got children or family members in the business that they want to ensure have a job or have a role in the future of the business. There's lots of family-related goals and sometimes family challenges that a business owner may be wanting to make sure their plan addresses.
Sometimes the family name is attached to the business. In our case, right now, our financial planning business is Moffitt Financial Strategies. It has the family name in it,
Right.
So if we were to sell that to a third party, we'd certainly want to make sure that they maintained it in a way that protected our family and our name.
Yeah. Lots of the businesses that we think of big businesses today have owners or founders in their names, and Procter and Gamble actually was a Procter and a Gamble that started the business, and so that you do want to protect your names. Yeah.
Then we also met a young man when we were on the way in to record today, whose main goal in the sale of a business was to make sure that his father was well taken
Yeah,
care of
yeah.
after doing so much work in the business. That was the number one goal, is to take care of my family.
Yeah, yeah. So family goals, that's an important, if it's a family business or a business that your family has been on this journey with you in sometimes for decades, it's important to take care of those things.
Or maybe it hasn't, and it's cost a lot of family time.
Yeah.
Your family has sacrificed a lot for you to build the business. We hear that a lot too. I spent all the years that my kids were little, I missed so much because I was building the business. And you want to make sure that all of the sacrifices that you've made, that your family's made, are worth it in the sale or transition out of the business.
Yeah. It requires a lot of thoughtful planning, in that situation. Some of our clients have retirement goals. They really do want to stop, working. Most people don't want to stop and just sit like our grandparents, who would have sat on the front porch in a rocking chair and or read the dictionary
had a glass
every
of
day.
tea.
Yeah. And retirement looks different for people today. They typically want to stay involved, but they do want to exit the working phase of their business. So maybe they have some retirement goals that are really important. And then the last thing that I think is important is a lot of times owners want to minimize taxes. In fact, I've never met an owner who's told me, Derek, one of my goals is to pay the government as much as I can in this transition, So they want to exit in a way that minimizes taxes in a way that's honest and with integrity, but, doesn't pay the government more than they have to.
So there are ways to plan for that
Yeah.
you can make your taxes appropriate for what they should be and not overpay when you are transitioning out of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. There are, and this is a key thing. Of course, a lot of it depends on how and who you're transitioning to. When you're transitioning to key employees or family, there's some discounts that the IRS will let you do. It's really important to understand how those work. And I would say, part of the exit planning process is getting a team of people together. We are professionals in understanding the planning side, but we're not tax professionals. We're not attorneys. And so we will bring, if you have people that work with, we'll sometimes work with the client's existing professionals, but we can also bring a team of people together that understand each of those components so we can help, achieve whatever those goals are. Yeah.
So let's have a moment from our sponsor, and then when we come back, we'll do some personal planning tips.
Welcome to Threadpool. We're an all-inclusive podcast factory. Podcast made easy. We operate with a done-for-you approach. If you have a great podcast concept, we can help make it a reality. In less than 8 weeks, we can have your amazing podcast fully produced, making you ready to share your podcast worldwide on all of the major podcast streaming platforms. Book a coaching session to see how we can work with you. We are Threadpool, revealing greatness.
Okay, Derek, so you promised you'd come back with a personal financial planning topic. What have you got?
Yeah, well, this one I think is somewhat obvious, but let me start by telling you a true story. We were sitting at my grandmother's table. She had this big, long table, and she has all these piles. She brings me in this stack of statements from all of her investments. I had just got it started in the business, and so I organize all these piles, and there are 16 different accounts, institutions, all this stuff piled up. And she looks at me in the way my grandmother could be frantic and say, Derek, I'm 76 years old and I can't keep track of all this. And I looked and I said, Granny, I'm 32 years old and I couldn't keep track of all this. So the first tip is get organized.
Yes.
A lot of times in our process, the very first thing we do with clients on the personal side is we help them get organized, and that's an important thing. And whether that's doing it, in a binder or an online organization tool, there's lots of great tools. Get organized. Get a tool that helps you see everything, know where it is, know why you own it, know what you're going to do with it. And that's not in terms of just investments and accounts. That means where your life insurance policies are, where your estate planning documents are. We use a tool that helps people create an online filing cabinet. And I did this for you, right? You know, where I put all this online and said,
In addition to the book,
yes, there is the book. There is the book. Yeah.
we also have the Vault
The
online.
vault, yeah. It has all the all the copies, and so that's a big deal. And I think the big benefit of getting organized is you just feel peace of mind. You know, you just know, okay, I know where everything is. If something happens to my spouse, I know where to go find the life insurance policy. In fact, you know, when we did our book, I went with our oldest 2 kids and said, Mom's not going to be thinking clearly if something happens to me. Here's the book. Here's got all the details that you need to know. So I think that's really important as well to get organized, get some peace, get some confidence. It's really the first step in the planning process.
Well, and one of the benefits to that may be, I don't think Granny was aware that she had 16 different accounts.
No, she wasn't.
Because she didn't have it organized. We love Granny. We're not bashing her, but because she didn't have all of that in front of her in a organized way, she just kept adding accounts.
Yeah.
And I think when you get organized, your financial professional may help you consolidate some of those things, you know, so that you don't have more complications in your life than you need.
Yeah. Organize and simplify. I think that's really good advice.
Well, business builders, can we just thank you for what you do? You are the backbone of our community. You provide goods and services that we need and that we can't live without, and we are so appreciative of you for being with us today. So just to recap, we talked about what exactly exit planning is and who might need it. And we want to call you to action right now. We want to ask you, if you liked what you heard today, subscribe to the podcast or leave a rating and tell us what you really thought about it. Be nice. And recommend the podcast to your friends and family. If you know somebody that you think would benefit from this, share it with them. If you want to know more, you can soon visit leavemybusinesswell.com. Or you can visit our financial planning business at MoffittFinancialStrategies.com. You can also follow Moffitt Financial Strategies and Leave My Business Well on Facebook and on Twitter. Or you can send us an email. Just be sure to tune in. Whatever you do, be sure to join us next time when we're going to talk about 8 exit paths for owners. We'll just do a little deeper dive into some of the things that we talked about today.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we again thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, let me leave you with this thought. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only, and they are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance references are historical and do not guarantee future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. Consult your legal, tax, or financial advisor before making any decisions. Thank you.